Have you ever begged Allah to make someone stay, but deep down, something just didn't feel right? You tried harder, you prayed longer, but all you got was more confusion. What if I told you the silence you're getting is an answer? Not every love you feel is love, Allah wrote. And sometimes the biggest sign is the one your heart keeps trying to ignore. Let's talk about the 5 signs you're forcing a relationship Allah never wrote for you. Because forcing love never leads to peace, but trusting Allah always does. Sign 1. You feel spiritually distant. Every time you get closer to them, something inside you feels like it's pulling you away from Allah. You don't feel as calm as before. You don't feel as connected in your prayers. You used to cry in sujood with peace in your chest. But now, even when you pray, there's a heavy feeling, like your heart is carrying something it was never meant to carry. And maybe you've noticed it. You stopped waking up for tahajjud. You stopped making as much dhikr. You started delaying your salah. Slowly, your soul started losing its light, not because of one big thing, but because of the small ways your heart is getting distracted from your Creator. It's not always about haram. Sometimes the person looks like a blessing, but if their presence starts making your deen feel like a burden, or if you only feel close to Allah when you're away from them, that's not love, that's a test. You might be telling yourself, but I'm making dua, I'm doing istikhara, I'm asking Allah to make it halal. But if the more you chase them, the more your soul feels distant from Allah, then maybe your heart already knows what your ego doesn't want to accept. Allah loves you too much to let your soul stay somewhere that harms your akhirah. That uneasiness in your chest, that's not random. That's a gentle whisper from your fitrah. It's Allah showing you, this isn't bringing you closer to me. Even if they look religious, even if they say the right things, if their love makes you forget Allah, then their presence is not a mercy. Real love, the kind Allah blesses, it wakes your heart up. It makes you want to pray more. It brings light, not darkness. It brings ease, not secret anxiety. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us that the heart is a vessel. If you fill it with someone Allah didn't write for you, there's no space left for what He did write. You can't force peace. You can't force light. And you can't force something that was never written for your soul. Sometimes, the distance you feel from Allah is the biggest proof that the person you're holding on to is not meant to stay. Sign 2. You keep justifying red flags. You keep seeing things that make your heart uncomfortable. The way they talk to you, the way they ignore you when you need comfort, the way they get angry, then say sorry, then repeat it all over again. Deep down, you know it's not right, but you keep telling yourself, maybe it's not that bad. You excuse their behavior. You blame yourself for their silence. You say things like, everyone has flaws. Maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe I need to be more patient. But here's the truth. Patience does not mean allowing yourself to be hurt again and again by the same person, in the same way, for the same reasons. Patience doesn't mean ignoring the pain that Allah placed in your chest as a warning sign. Every time you justify something that keeps breaking you, you are slowly teaching your heart to accept what it was never created to accept. You are forcing yourself to settle when Allah has promised better. You are silencing your soul just to hold on to someone who keeps hurting you. And maybe they keep saying, I'll change. Maybe they cry sometimes. Maybe they show you a better side now and then. But real change doesn't come from a few sweet words. It comes from consistent actions. A person who truly fears Allah will not keep hurting you while knowing it's wrong. Sometimes love tricks us. We start thinking love means enduring pain, even when the pain becomes constant. But love from Allah never asks you to destroy yourself just to keep someone else. You weren't created to fix someone else's bad character. That is not your job. Your job is to protect your heart, your deen, and your dignity. And if someone makes you feel like you're too emotional or too sensitive every time you bring up what's hurting you, then that's not love. That's emotional manipulation. And you might think, but I've already invested so much time. I've already made so many du'as. I can't give up now. But the truth is, the more time you give to the wrong person, the more you delay what Allah actually wrote for you. The longer you stay in a place that breaks you, the harder it becomes to believe that healing is even possible. Allah never sends love wrapped in repeated harm. Allah never sends a person into your life to make you question your worth over and over again. And when your heart keeps getting wounded by the same patterns, that's not a mistake anymore. It's a sign. Don't ignore the red flags just because you're afraid of starting over. Starting over with Allah is always better than staying stuck in a place where your soul keeps breaking. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "A believer is not bitten from the same hole twice." Don't let someone keep hurting you while you keep calling it hope. That's not hope. That's self-neglect. You don't need to stay in a relationship where your heart must constantly defend pain just to feel love. Real love doesn't need defending. It brings peace without you having to fight for it. Sign 3. The relationship feels like a cycle, not a journey. You've been through this before, maybe not once, not twice, but so many times you've lost count. One day, they make you feel like you matter. The next, they pull away again. One moment, they say, "I love you," and the next, you're wondering if they even care. You fix one problem, and another one takes its place. You talk things out, and then fight over the same thing a few days later. You cry, they say sorry, and then the same situation happens again, over and over. And you keep telling yourself, we're just going through a phase. But when the phase lasts months or years, it's not a phase anymore. It's a cycle. You start to feel emotionally tired. You lose parts of yourself trying to keep the relationship alive. And each time something breaks, it takes a little longer to heal. You begin to carry silent pain. You smile less, you pray less, you feel stuck. This isn't how love from Allah is supposed to feel. Love written by Him doesn't leave you drained, questioning your worth every other week. Love written by Him helps you grow, not go in circles. And if you're always stuck in the same arguments, if you're always the one fixing things, if you're constantly waiting for the good times to come back, then maybe those good times are just moments keeping you attached to something that isn't healthy for your heart. It's like walking in a circle in the desert, hoping you'll eventually reach a garden. But no matter how far you go, you always end up in the same place. Dry, tired, lost. You start to realize this isn't a journey. This isn't a story moving forward. This is a loop, and your heart deserves better than being stuck in the same place over and over again. You keep telling yourself it's just a rough patch. You keep believing that if you just hold on a little longer, things will change. You say, maybe they just need time. Maybe we're just stressed. Maybe after marriage it'll be different. But how long have you been saying that? Weeks, months, years? You're always waiting. But nothing really gets better. Maybe they stop hurting you for a while, but it never lasts. Maybe they show you love sometimes, but it's never consistent. One day they're kind, the next they're distant. One moment they seem serious, the next they disappear. It's like your heart is always on standby, not living, just waiting. Waiting for a better version of them to show up. Waiting for the right time. waiting for them to finally choose you the way you keep choosing them. But what if this is who they are? What if what you're waiting for is just a dream, not reality? What if the person you're hoping they'll become only exists in your imagination? Sometimes we stay in painful situations not because they feel good, but because we keep believing they will. We don't want to give up. We don't want to feel like we wasted time. So we keep holding on, even if it means waiting in pain. But here's the truth. The longer you wait for something Allah never wrote for you, the longer you delay what He actually did write. What if the love you're asking Allah for can't reach you because you're too busy waiting on someone He's trying to remove? Your time is precious. Your heart is valuable. And if a relationship keeps you stuck in waiting instead of growing, that's not love. That's emotional imprisonment. Allah doesn't test you by making you beg for someone who keeps walking away. He tests you by seeing if you'll trust Him enough to walk away yourself, so He can give you something better. Let go of the maybe someday love, and open your heart to the love that brings peace today. You try to speak, but your heart hesitates. You want to express your feelings, but you're afraid of how they'll react. You overthink every word, every message, every silence because you're scared it will start another argument or push them further away. So instead of being honest, you stay quiet. You bottle things up. You say, "It's fine," even when your heart is clearly not. Because deep down, you feel like your emotions are a burden to them. And when you do finally open up, you get told you're being dramatic, too emotional, too sensitive. They roll their eyes, they change the subject, or they shut down completely, and you're left wondering, did I do something wrong just by speaking? This isn't how communication is supposed to feel. Talking to someone you care about shouldn't feel like walking through a minefield. You shouldn't have to shrink yourself just to keep the peace. Love is not silent suffering. Love is not always keeping your pain to yourself, so they stay comfortable. In a healthy connection, you feel safe to speak, you feel heard. You don't have to explain your worth over and over again. You don't have to beg to be understood. And maybe you've tried everything. You've written long messages trying to explain your heart. You've waited for the right moment. You've stayed patient again and again. But no matter how much you try to bring your hearts closer, the gap only grows. Communication is the oxygen of any relationship. If it constantly feels like you're choking on your own words, if you always leave conversations feeling worse instead of better, that's not love. That's slow emotional suffocation. When someone truly values you, they don't just hear your words, they listen with their heart. They make space for your emotions. They don't turn your pain into an inconvenience. And if you're the only one trying to talk, trying to fix things, trying to understand, then what you have is not a partnership. It's you carrying the whole relationship on your back and pretending it doesn't hurt. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the best listener. He never made people feel small for expressing their feelings. He never mocked, ignored, or belittled anyone who came to him with a heart full of emotion. If someone can't even give you the basic respect of listening with kindness, how will they ever carry the weight of your heart in the future? Real love listens. And if they can't even do that, maybe it's time to listen to the silence they leave behind. You keep imagining what it could be. The home, the peace, the nikah. You think about what your life would look like together, praying side by side, growing closer in deen, building a family. But when you look at the reality, none of that is actually happening. There's no real plan, no serious steps. Just vague words like, "Insha'Allah soon," or "I just need more time." And time keeps passing. Months turn into years, and you're still stuck in the same place, having the same conversations about the same future that never actually begins. You bring up marriage, and they change the subject. You talk about commitment, and they say, "Don't pressure me." You ask for clarity, and they give you confusion. So you wait. You wait because you love them. You wait because you think, if I'm patient enough, they'll be ready. But what if they're not planning to be ready at all? What if you're preparing your heart for a future with someone who isn't even sure they want to walk that path with you? You deserve more than just dreams. You deserve direction. You deserve actions, not just pretty words. If someone truly wants to build a future with you, they won't keep you guessing. They'll make their intention clear. Allah does not confuse the heart when something is good for it. He brings clarity with what is written, not constant delay and doubt. If someone keeps saying, "We'll see what happens," if they keep asking for more time, but never use that time to grow, that's not a sign of patience. That's a sign of hesitation. And maybe they're not bad people, but just because someone is good doesn't mean they're good for you. You weren't created to be an option. You weren't created to build castles in the air, hoping one day someone else will decide you're enough. Your value is not based on how long you wait. It's based on how much you trust Allah to write something better. When love is right, it moves. It may be slow, but it's steady. It may not be perfect, but it's clear. You won't have to guess where it's going. You won't have to chase after commitment. And you won't have to beg someone to choose you. If the future is always a question mark, maybe the answer is already in front of you. Sign 4. You keep making dua to fix it, not bless it. There was a time when your duas were full of joy. You used to smile when you raised your hands. You would ask Allah to bring your hearts together in the right way. With barakah, with peace, with nikah. You asked Him to bless the connection, to make it something pure. You were excited, hopeful. You believed this was your future, and you begged Allah to make it happen. But now, your duas feel different. They're no longer full of light. They're heavy. Your hands shake. Your chest tightens. And instead of asking for barakah, you ask for answers. Instead of asking for this person, you ask for relief. You whisper things like, "Ya Allah, if it's not good for me, take it away. Ya Allah, please change their heart. Ya Allah, please, just help me understand what to do." And sometimes, "Ya Allah, I'm so tired. Please give me peace." These are not the same duas you made in the beginning. They've changed because you've changed. Your soul is tired of holding on to something that keeps hurting. And deep down, maybe even without realizing it, your heart is trying to let go through your dua. You used to ask Allah to bring you closer to this person. Now, you're asking Him to bring you closer to clarity, closer to peace, closer to truth. That shift is not random. It's your fitra, the pure part of your soul, recognizing that something is off. And Allah, out of His mercy, is softening your attachment by changing the way you speak to Him. Because sometimes, Allah doesn't remove someone from your life all at once. Sometimes He lets you feel the weight of holding on, so that when you let go, you do it with certainty, not confusion. So if your duas don't sound like they used to, if they're filled with more pain than peace, more begging than gratitude, more desperation than joy, then your heart is already speaking. It's already starting to accept what your mind is still afraid to admit. This may not be the love that leads you to what you asked for. And maybe, just maybe, Allah is preparing your heart for something better than what you were praying for in the first place. You cry, you plead, you raise your hands again and again. You stay up late at night, whispering your pain into your palms. You keep saying, Ya Allah, please don't let this end. Please change their heart. Please fix what's broken. You're not just making dua, you're begging from the deepest part of your chest. And still nothing changes. They're still cold, still distant, still confusing. You give more, and they give less. And the more you try to hold on, the more peace seems to slip away from your heart. You start to wonder, why isn't Allah helping me? Why am I still so sad if I'm doing everything I can? But what you don't realize is the distance you feel is the answer. Sometimes Allah doesn't take away a person suddenly. He takes away the peace you used to feel with them. That numb feeling, that tightness in your chest when you make dua for them, that confusion in your heart. It's not your weakness. It's not a lack of faith. It's Allah trying to show you this isn't it. Because when something is from Him, it brings your soul closer to Him. It makes your heart feel light, even in difficulty. It makes your dua feel safe, even in tears. But this feels like you're drowning while praying. Like no matter how many times you say, Ya Allah, you feel more alone than before. And you try to convince yourself that this is a test. That if you just stay patient, things will get better. But there is a difference between a test and a sign. A test brings you back to Allah. A sign warns you before you break too far. So ask yourself honestly, is your dua bringing you closer to peace, or just deeper into fear? Because if all you feel after begging Allah is more heaviness, that's not always a punishment. Sometimes that's mercy. Sometimes Allah pulls away the peace from a relationship, because if He didn't, you would never let go of what's slowly destroying you. You beg because you love them, but Allah withholds peace because He loves you more. And sometimes the peace you're looking for won't come from changing the person. It will only come from walking away. You try, again and again. You take one step forward, but something pushes you 2 steps back. You want to talk to them and clear things up, but they go silent. You think you're making progress, but suddenly they become distant. Every time you think things are finally starting to work, another door slams shut in your face. You feel like you're chasing something that never stays in your hands. You start over, you try harder, you fix your side. But somehow, no matter what you do, it still falls apart. You might tell yourself, maybe it's just bad timing. Maybe it's the devil trying to separate us. Maybe Allah is testing how badly I want this. But what if it's none of those things? What if Allah is showing you, gently but clearly, this isn't the path I wrote for you? Sometimes the biggest answer is not a word. It's a pattern. Doors close, hearts close, paths fall apart. No matter how much you pray, plan, or push, it doesn't flow. And instead of peace, you feel stuck. Instead of clarity, you feel lost. Instead of love, you feel anxiety. That's not Allah punishing you. That's Allah protecting you. He's not making your path hard because He wants to break your heart. He's making it hard so you finally stop forcing something that was never meant to stay. You see, when Allah wants something for you, it may not be easy, but it will have barakah. Things will move. Doors will open. Conversations will become clearer. There will be signs that say, keep going. But when every attempt ends in disappointment, when every effort feels like walking in circles, when the same issues keep returning no matter how much you try to fix them, that's not love. That's a loop. And Allah is too merciful to let your heart stay trapped in a loop with no destination. So ask yourself, why does every door keep closing? Is it really bad luck? Or is it Allah's way of guiding you to something better by removing what you keep chasing? Sometimes we ask Allah to open the door, But we don't realize the closed door is the answer. He's not holding you back. He's holding your heart, so it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Sign 5. You compromise what matters most. You didn't plan for it to happen. You didn't wake up one day and decide to lower your standards or cross your limits. You were just trying to hold on to someone you cared about. You loved them. You believed in the connection. You thought, if I just stay a little longer, maybe it will become something good. But slowly, quietly, you started giving up pieces of yourself. At first, it was something small. A text you would have never replied to before. A phone call that went on too long. A conversation that crossed a line you once protected. And when nothing bad happened right away, you told yourself it was okay. But deep down, something didn't feel right. Your heart felt it. Your conscience whispered it. But your emotions were louder. You used to draw boundaries with confidence. Now, you hesitate to even mention what's bothering you, because you're afraid they'll call you too strict or too religious. So you stay quiet. You let things slide. You tell yourself, it's just temporary, I'll fix it later. But every time you silence your values to keep someone, you silence a part of your soul. You used to feel strong in your deen. You were proud of your modesty. You were protective of your heart. You had standards not because you were arrogant, but because you feared Allah and respected yourself. But now, you've started adjusting your identity to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You stop saying no. You stop speaking up. You stop protecting what you once used to guard with so much strength and sincerity. And why? Because you don't want to lose them. But here's the truth you're trying to avoid. If staying close to someone means moving far from Allah, then you're not holding on to love. You're holding on to a test that's slowly pulling you away from who you were meant to be. Allah never asks you to trade your faith for a person. And real love, love that is written by Him, will never need you to cross the limits He gave you. The right person will love your values, not test them. They will help you rise in faith, not fall into guilt. They will protect your boundaries, not push them. So if your values have started slipping just to keep someone around, know that your heart is already giving too much to someone who may not even be meant to stay. And if you have to lose Allah to keep them, then you've already lost more than you realize. There was a time when you felt so connected to Allah. You used to wake up for tahajjud with peace in your chest. You used to make dua, and your eyes would fill with tears not from pain, but from love. You could feel Allah's presence in your heart. Even when things were hard, you still felt close to Him. But now, it's not the same. Your heart feels distant. Your prayers feel dry. You stand in salah, but your mind is somewhere else. You raise your hands in dua, but your soul feels heavy like it's carrying a storm it can't explain. You try to connect, but something inside you feels blocked. You try to cry in sujood like you used to, but the tears don't come. And when they do, they're no longer tears of peace, they're tears of confusion. And you start wondering, what happened to me? Why don't I feel the same way I used to? The answer is painful, but clear. You gave someone a place in your heart that was meant only for Allah. And slowly, without even noticing, your focus shifted. Your thoughts became filled with them. Your time revolved around them. Your emotions were tied to how they treated you, not how Allah sees you. And that's when it started. The more they became the center of your life, the less light you felt in your soul. Because no heart can hold two masters. And when we put a person above our Creator, even out of love, our soul begins to starve. You may still be praying. You may still be making dua, but it doesn't feel the same because your heart isn't fully in it. A part of you is still wondering if this person will text you back, choose you, fix things. And Allah, the one who never left, is still waiting for you to come back to him fully. Not halfway, not distracted, fully. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Whoever makes the hereafter his main concern, Allah will take care of all his needs." But right now, the hereafter has taken a back seat, because your heart is tangled in a relationship that's making you forget your eternal destination. You don't feel close to Allah anymore, not because he moved away, but because your heart turned its face towards someone who was never meant to replace him. But the beautiful thing is, Allah never closes his door. Even now, even after all this, all it takes is one sincere tear, one honest prayer, one moment where you say, "Ya Allah, I want to come back." And he will receive you not with anger, but with mercy, because he's been waiting, not to punish you, but to return your heart to the peace you've been missing. Sometimes, the most painful part of love is realizing that you were never meant to carry it this far, that the person you kept praying for was actually the very thing Allah was trying to pull you away from. You tried, you gave your heart, you made dua, but now your soul is tired. Not because you loved too deeply, but because you kept trying to fix what Allah never designed to last. Every red flag, every delay, every unanswered prayer was not a sign to fight harder, but a sign to surrender. And surrender doesn't mean you failed. It means you finally trust that Allah knows what your heart doesn't. You were not created to beg for love that confuses you. You were not created to lose yourself in a relationship that keeps taking more than it gives. You were created to be honored, protected, and loved in a way that brings you closer to Allah, not further from Him. So maybe it's time to stop forcing the love story you wrote in your head. Time to let go of the person your heart keeps chasing. Time to return to the one who's been waiting to write something better. Because when Allah writes love, it will come with clarity, it will bring peace, and it will never require you to break yourself to keep it.